Imagine if you could halt the constant march of time. If you could slow it down and speed it up. Imagine if you could stop time, or even reverse it. The world about us would look quite different. Imagine no longer. Come with us as we go on a journey through time. Our lives are ruled by the clock. But our obsession with time should come as no surprise. Deep inside us, we all have a clock that regulates our lives. Can this body clock tell us when we're most likely to get drunk? If we all wanted to live forever, could this worm hold the key to eternal life? In our busy lives, we are always chasing time, always trying to save it. But in a crisis, how can we change time to help save ourselves? We think of ourselves as slaves to the clock. Racing through life at breakneck speed has become the norm. But could our pursuit of speed be the key to time travel, letting us visit the distant future? Will we ever truly become masters of time? Time is precious. We never seem to have enough. We've spent centuries building clocks, all to more and more accurately measure the passing of hours, minutes, and seconds. Yet it still doesn't buy us any more of the stuff. Time has come to mean the straitjacketing of our day, the constant schedule that rules our lives. Yet, if you think about it, our everyday experience of time is far from constant. We have long, lazy days when time seems to stand still. But time doesn't change, only our sense of it. This sensation might all be down to how we process what we see. We can see the effect at the movies. A film seems to pass by in a seamless flow. But what we are really seeing is a series of static photographs, one following quickly after another. When slowed down, it's clear that each one is slightly different from the one before. Flash 24 of them past each second, and they create a sense of fluid movement. Your brain works in a similar way. When you leave the cinema, you're also seeing the world as a series of pictures. Your brain does a rapid scan of each new image to register what's changed. It's how we avoid bumping into things. But like a film, we just see the joined-up effect. If we could reduce the number of images we see each second, just imagine how our sense of time would change too. our lives would appear to flash past like an express train. The seasons would whiz past in minutes rather than months. If, on the other hand, our brains scanned a huge number of separate images every second, we'd be swamped with detail. It would be like living in perpetual slow motion. And let's face it, that's just too chilled out. But not for a fly. A fly needs exactly this heightened level of awareness because it hurtles through the world at such high speed. Flies see things we don't, the flickering of a strip light and the individual scans on a TV screen. Most importantly, it can see the need for a quick escape from the fly swat, for instance. We don't need to see the world like a fly. Day to day, that level of detail is unnecessary. The rate at which we clock our surroundings is the one that best fits our pace of life. It can vary. When we're waiting, time seems to drag. When we're busy, time flies. But we can override all of this. We have a remarkable hidden power over time. It kicks in during a crisis. Faced with extreme danger, the mind enters an altered state. People report seeing in black and white. Why bother to waste time processing color when your brain is on overload? But most importantly, people say time slows down. The brain is now on high alert, processing far more each second than normal. It buys you extra time to think and act. So we can, when necessary and without a second thought, fundamentally control our experience of time. Why then do we feel we're such slaves to the clock? Time is organized to a level that borders on obsession. We can now measure it to the nearest billionth of a second. How did this obsession start? Well, we've come by it quite naturally. Even though the Egyptians were the first to formally divide daylight into hours, we were well equipped to tell the time way before this. Our earliest ancestors used the changing seasons to measure out the years. The phases of the moon marked out the months. But it was the daily arc of the sun that counted most. Nature follows this rhythm. So no surprise that the sun's movement across the sky affects us too. Although we use the shadows it casts to mark time, the sun's influence goes much deeper than this. It helps our bodies keep time by regulating a clock that we don't even see. One that's ticking away deep inside us. It's a biological clock, a master clock that's set by the sun and which controls all aspects of our lives. When you're most alert, when you sleep, and even when you are most likely to visit the toilet. The exact location of this clock? Right in the middle of your brain, in an area called the hypothalamus. But like man-made timepieces, this biological clock loses time. It has to be reset twice a day by the sun. It's all done through a hotline of nerves that link this master clock via the eye to the outside world, and so to the sun's cycle.
Well done, lads. Cheers. Cheers.
Mostly we're oblivious to how our bodies keep time. And yet we're riddled with different clocks. Even our liver has one. The liver does most of our detoxing, so knowing how it ticks is crucial if you need to stay sober or if you really want to get legless. So what's the lowdown? The liver is on go slow and least able to break down alcohol around lunchtime. So drinking then will get you merrier quicker. But a few too many does more than make you feel woozy. It can have some very strange effects on your other cycles. Your body temperature follows a very strong rhythm, which is also controlled by a biological clock. But this is knocked off track after a session at the pub. Using a thermal camera to monitor the body's temperature, scientists can track how the normal rhythm is upset. The changing colors show the temperature seesawing through the night. It's the disruption to this and other body clocks that's thought to affect the size of your hangover. But science isn't revealing all bad news. Just as there's the best time to drink alcohol, there is also a prime time to take the cure. The latest research shows any medicine will most likely work best if taken at a particular time of day. It's already known that painkillers do the job best when taken in the morning. So now you can deal with that hangover a bit quicker too. There seems to be no escape from the pressure of time. Our bodies are full of clocks regulating everything we do. But these inbuilt time machines have unexpected benefits. Even though you might sometimes cut things too fine, your body has an almost miraculous sense of timing. We are always making split-second decisions. It lets us juggle not just fire, but everyday situations as well. It's something we take for granted, but get your timing wrong and, well, you might get your fingers burned. All the time, we're controlling when our bodies should move or stay still. That's fine for a simple routine, but how about this? To dance the flamenco, you need to be able to measure many different time intervals. You need to judge the space between claps, the split seconds between foot stomps, and the intervals between the twists and turns of your body. Where do you even start? To judge the next move, you need something like a stopwatch. In fact, you already have one. It's phenomenally fast and accurate, and found in the part of the brain called the basal ganglia. Our heads are full of electrical impulses that are all firing off at different rates. The basal ganglia does the clever bit, matching up these electrical beats to the rhythms in the dance routine. That's how we keep in time to the music. So top dancers' brains are working flat out too. But we all have the same basic kit. So don't plead 2 left feet. Sign up for that flamenco class. From flamenco to footy, this inbuilt precision timing controls every move we make. Great timing is one thing, but what we really want is more time. And the only way to achieve that is to stretch the lifetime we've got. When our biological clock stops ticking, so do we. Is there anything we can do to keep it going? Scientists have always been searching for life's holy grail, immortality. But now nature is giving them some clues. For most living things, freezing is deadly. But insects such as this weta, some amphibians, and even a species of reptile survive months of extreme cold by doing just this. They put time on hold. Ice crystals usually destroy living cells, but not in these animals. When warm weather brings a thaw, they're back in business. How they do this might prove useful one day, but some people can't wait. They've been frozen in the belief that solutions to aging and disease will be found. The catch is you have to be dead first. After dying, these optimists are suspended headfirst in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees centigrade, and there they remain, frozen in time, banking on a future when death can be reversed. Back in the real world, even our attempts to live longer are backfiring on us. The very air we need to breathe is also killing us. We breathe in over 10,000 times a day, and each time something in the air makes us age. It's oxygen. Our cells need oxygen to make energy, but leftover oxygen slips away and starts a kind of rusting from within. Oxygen isn't the only rogue element. Sunlight, pollution, and tobacco smoke also form these so-called free radicals. And it's these radicals that do the damage. The good news is there's something that can stop the rot. Even though it proves your mum right, you have to eat your greens. Vegetables in particular contain antioxidants which help soak up those free radicals. So broccoli and beans help keep those wrinkles at bay. If you had thought that was the bad news, well, there's worse. The human body has a design flaw. All the billions of cells that make up our bodies contain the genetic instruction manual that makes us who we are, DNA. Our cells need constant renewal, and they do this by dividing. Each time the DNA instructions get copied and passed on. Sadly, the system's got a glitch, and surprisingly quickly, mistakes start creeping in. As the cells divide, a bit of DNA information might get lost, so the new cell isn't an exact copy. It's a bit like a game of Chinese whispers. It's why our bodies end up looking very different from how they started. Aging seems to be a fact of life, so how on earth can we stay forever young? For starters, you could try hiding your age, but even if all the surgery, creams, supplements and Botox in the world make you look younger, they won't help you live forever. Still, we are pushing our lifetime as far as we can. Just a century ago, life expectancy in the West was around 40 years. But thanks to better diets and medical backup, a child born now can expect to live to a ripe old age of 80. Today in the UK, there are more centenarians than ever before. In 1952, the Queen sent 225 telegrams to people on their 100th birthday. In 2003, she sent almost 5,000. But limit. Well, we believe the oldest human ever lived to 122. So can we buy ourselves more time? Some scientists think we can. They've increased the life of one animal to the human equivalent of 500 years. Admittedly, it's only a worm, but it has genes that control aging. By fiddling with these genes, scientists have turned the worm on the right into a very ancient specimen indeed. Maybe with a similar genetic nip and tuck, we could one day cheat time and live much, much longer. But for now, perhaps the best way to buy more time is not with science, but by having fun. You can grow even older by staying young at heart. A happy, optimistic person could dramatically extend their life by over 20 years. Instead of reaching just 85, you could laugh your way to 106.
No.
So keep on smiling. Oh, and remember to eat those greens. Although our time eventually runs out, we're finding ways of pushing lifespans to the limit. Look after your body and it will look after you. Our brains can change how we experience time and avoid disaster. And with a little help from the sun, our body clocks keep ticking over nicely. So without even realizing, our bodies already master time. But we're not content with this. We expect more and more from the time we've got, which means everything else has to speed up. How has this race against time changed the world around us? One of the biggest repercussions from doing things more quickly may have been triggered over 50,000 years ago. This was when man first set foot in Australia. The first people brought something that helped them to survive here, but it was something that may have changed the landscape forever. Fire. With fire, they may have set off a chain of events that they knew nothing about. It's just one example of how we humans cannot see the results of what we do. Not because the events aren't dramatic, but because they happen on a timescale way, way beyond our own. To see what happened in Australia, we first have to appreciate how fire transformed these people's lives. Fire is destructive, so why torch the very land they lived on? It was all done to save time. With fire, they could clear the land faster than ever before. And despite appearances, the devastation was short-lived. The bare ground was quickly filled with fresh new growth. These tender shoots attracted grazing animals. It made hunting quicker and easier. Saving time is all part of the human drive to survive. But now there's a suggestion that these small-scale fires did more than just scorch a few plants. Only now, with the benefit of hindsight, can we see how the dramatic changes here in Australia might have begun. Fire was such a great time saver that the early people relied on it more and more. As the blazes became more frequent, the plants had less and less time to grow back. Thousands of fires over thousands of generations may have changed the relationship between the plants and the climate. Eventually, some of Australia's annual monsoons just dried up. The skies cleared and the rivers ran dry. Gone was the water from in front of their eyes. But because it disappeared little by little, drop by drop over thousands of years, they never saw it happening. Some believe this continental scale change in the weather dried up Australia's largest lake. When the first people arrived, Lake Eyre covered a vast area in the middle of the country. Its disappearance coincided with man's arrival. Tiny bits of time saving, the use of fire to clear the land and speed up the hunt for food, added up over time to this. Australia turned into the largely desert continent we know today. And a once massive lake is gone. Fire is one of the first time-saving devices, but it certainly wasn't the last. We humans will do anything to cut corners. But even as we settled into the fast lane, we discovered something that took us up a whole new gear. The sun once ruled our day. Here we're turning the sun's heat into round-the-clock energy, electricity. And with it, we are changing our whole perspective on time. Since we discovered electricity, time itself has been given the shock treatment. Life today would be impossible without electricity. Everything happens with the flick of a switch. Electricity has pushed everything into overdrive. It's the power behind the world's fastest growing city, Las Vegas. One minute there's an empty plot of land, then a timber frame, turn the corner and the walls go up. Next street the tiles go on. Opposite the houses are finished. And round the corner people have already moved in, ready to live the dream. There can be 1,000 new people a week riding in on this power surge. It's taken just decades to turn a vast area of desert into downtown. But it's not just Vegas. It's everywhere. Electricity hasn't just transformed the world, it's turned night into day. In Vegas, buildings go up even in the dark. When the sun goes down, the city lights up. The effect is like a whoop of victory over our age-old slavery to daylight. Now there's no need to wait for anything. The slot machines, one-armed bandits, restaurants are all open 24 hours a day. Dinner time is any time. Here you won't run out of time. only money. This round-the-clock existence is not just changing our habits. Many of the animals that share our cities have always been nocturnal, but 24-hour light is making some of them behave in strange ways. Birds come into our cities for warmth from the lights, especially at Christmas. But the light has also meant that some birds are singing their dawn chorus in the middle of the night. The trees are confused too. Longer nights in autumn signal the shedding of leaves, but trees growing by street lamps are now keeping their leaves longer than those in the dark. We can only wonder what this is doing to our own body clocks. Electricity has encouraged us to expect more and more from our day. We're burning the candle at both ends. Electricity hasn't just accelerated changes to the landscape. It's given us control over the night as well as the day. It's changed our whole attitude to time. Not even nature has escaped our frenzied attention. Nature takes its time. It changes slowly over many, many generations. So no wonder we got impatient. Nature may well be inventive, but these creations take thousands of years of step-by-step change. And natural selection isn't just slow, it's haphazard. You never know what you'll get. But we haven't got thousands of years. We want things now. So we've performed some unnatural selection to move nature along. So who got the fast-track treatment? Our best friend, the dog. This is a standard poodle, although there's little standard about this one. It's at the top of its league. A purebred pedigree, 100% poodle. If you don't like poodles, don't worry, there are plenty of other dogs to choose from. And the choice is staggering. There are over 400 different breeds. But whatever their shape or size, at one time all dogs resembled one very distant and long-lost cousin. Compared to the wolf, our pink poodle seems light years away. But without the wolf, there would be no poodle, pit bull, or Pekingese. Way back, we spotted that the wolf has some rather useful skills. They're team players and superb hunters. So we bred wolf pups, selecting and reinforcing the tricks that would serve us best. Over generations, we took a wild predator and molded its descendants into working dogs, animals that could speed up our hunts, guard our livestock, and protect us. But why breed a poodle? Well, originally they were working dogs, They're good in water and help their masters retrieve game from marshes and rivers. So, for a poodle, bath time's a doddle. After all, its name comes from the German word pudeln, which roughly translated means to splash around. There's nothing these pooches are afraid of. Mud, water, even pink dye. We've all seen a red setter. Why not a pink poodle? We've hijacked nature and steered it down a track of our own making. And at what speed? Many of the weird and wonderful dogs that exist today have been fashioned by us in just a few centuries. What next? Perhaps we'll even breed them pink. We've become masters of evolutionary time. We've taken natural selection by the scruff of the neck, controlled it, and put it into fast forward. But it's not just animals that have been subjected to our need for speed. We want fast food too. With so many of us all chasing the clock, we must get our food from plant to plate as quickly as possible. How have we done that? Take rice. Across Asia, it's the staple diet for 2 billion people. It feeds over half the world's population. In Indonesia, the landscape is dominated by it. Huge tracts of the jungle have been replaced by rice fields and terraces. Devoting large areas of land to one single crop is the only way to feed so many people quickly and easily. But this is just the start of high-speed farming. Rice growing still needs a large workforce. And despite many hands making light work, it still takes a lot of time to grow and harvest. So what can be done to speed things up and save time? Where possible, machines take over. This is how we get our daily bread. Huge combine harvesters clear wheat fields quickly and efficiently. But there's another, bigger problem. Nature controls the speed at which food plants grow and ripen. And of course, that dictates when they hit the shops. About 30 years ago, tomatoes were only available in the summer. Now they're in our shopping trolleys year-round. There are plum tomatoes, vine-ripened tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, Vittoria, Pomodorino. We have an insatiable appetite for them. The British alone consume 420,000 tons every year. What happened to the humble tomato? The tomato plant fell under our complete control. And what helped us to do this was the glasshouse. With glass houses, tomato growth went high-tech. In a short space of time, the greenhouse has gone from rustic garden potting place to megalithic tomato factory. This one covers over 11 hectares of the English countryside. But it's about as far from nature as you can get. Is this a window on the future? It's a precision-controlled world within a world, where growing time is compressed and tomatoes hurtle through their cycle at unnatural speed. They're grown in a special mineral base and drip-fed the water and food they need. As the temperature gets too hot, the windows open automatically, and once the best growing temperature is reached, they close. This is performance growth. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Seasons are a thing of the past. There's even a boiler which kicks in to stop the tomatoes catching a chill. Nothing is left to chance. They ripen double quick, and then they're picked. Even this happens round the clock, and although it's done by hand, it's made as easy as possible, so no time is wasted. Demand is rocketing. It might not be long before we're eating more tomatoes than any other fruit. No wonder we're doing all we can to grow them as fast as possible. To speed up nature, we have created artificial worlds. Is it only a matter of time before all we grow comes under our control? The tomato's rise from market garden fruit to techno plant is just one of the many ways in which we've taken time and shrunk it. If you drive down time, you drive down cost. Time is now money. So where on earth do we go from here? Iron ore, coal, copper and aluminium are the raw ingredients of our material world. To get enough of them, you have to shift shed loads of earth. This iron ore mine in Australia is one of the most enormous holes in the ground we've ever created. But where are the miners? Who's doing all the work? Men have been replaced by monster machines. One 40-ton scoop does the work of hundreds of men in a fraction of the time. The ultimate labor-saving device. Back-breaking work that used to take one man 1 month now takes 1 minute. We have the power to move mountains. And what's more, we can do it with breathtaking speed. A mine that today takes 30 years to dig might in the future take only 30 days. But what's behind the rush? This iron ore is the essential ingredient in our drive to beat time. It goes to make steel, and beyond that, all the tools that save us precious minutes. But one product, above all, has changed our experience of time. This train is carrying enough ore to make 15,000 of them. The most revolutionary time-saving machine ever invented. The car, perhaps more than anything else, has accelerated the way we live. It's possibly our first ever time machine. It gives us the freedom to travel further, faster than ever before. The first ones didn't exactly take your breath away. Though at the time, people thought you'd suffocate if you went much faster. But that didn't hold us back. Top speeds have gone from barely more than walking pace to over 300 kilometers per hour in less than a century. A century ago, most people never left their own village. Today we can get to anywhere on the planet in less than 48 hours. Because we can get about so fast, we're always on the move. Speed is how we beat time. And speed may be the key to our ultimate dream, time travel. Imagine being able to turn back the clock and relive your life. Imagine turning your car into a time machine and taking a journey through time. Well, today we are much closer to turning this dream into a reality. And that's because we now know there's no such thing as the constant march of time. In 1905, Albert Einstein suggested the mind-bending theory that time varies with speed. He proved that the length of 1 second depends on how fast you're moving. The faster you travel, the slower that second would take. So what would this mean in practice? Take these twins. One travels into space at phenomenal speed, leaving his brother behind on Earth. Neither will notice a change in time, but when they meet again, they'll see a big difference. When our space traveler completes what was for him a 4-month trip, he finds his brother on Earth has aged over 40 years. The younger twin has time traveled into his brother's future. So how fast would he have been going? Something close to the speed of light. That's around 300,000 kilometers per second. But is this actually possible? Well, in just 100 years, we've gone from top speeds of 12 kilometers an hour to 7 times the speed of sound. The speed of light is still a long way off, but new breakthroughs could find us hurtling towards it faster than we ever imagined. However far-fetched time travel may seem, don't brush it off as a dream. Lots of things once seemed impossible. A little over 100 years ago, the idea of talking to someone on the other side of the world would have been laughed at. Today, a telephone call to New Zealand, where words move at the speed of light, is taken for granted. So time travel might happen sooner than you think. But what about the time travel we see in science fiction, going back as well as forward in time? Scientists have discovered tunnels that connect two areas of space, which might just do this. These tunnels, called wormholes, are a shortcut between 2 points in time. At the moment, it is still a theory, but given time. So if you could become a Time Lord, what power would you have? Just imagine the options. You could head into the future to visit your great-grandchildren, perhaps even see their children's children. What kind of world would they be living in? You might prefer to take a trip into the past. Visit the world of the ancient Egyptians and see how they built the pyramids. Would you tell the early fire makers of Australia the consequences of their actions? Maybe you'd go to see the spectacles of the world, witness the creation of the Grand Canyon. You could even walk with dinosaurs. Would you go back into the unknown over 15 billion years to witness the creation of the universe and the very beginning of time? If you could become a true master of time, where would you go? What would you dare to change?
Well, OK, how about going back to visit some of the greatest heroes of Greek mythology, starting with Jason and the Argonauts. Greek Gods and Goddesses is new to BBC One at 8 next Sunday. Next tonight, it's Waking the Dead.